Hey, Sean, if you could just tell us a little bit about what went into bringing in Carson Wentz.
Yeah, I think it's really just a chance to upgrade the quarterback room. He's a guy that's played, feel good about Matthew returning. And obviously, when he's out there, you feel great about the leadership and everything that he provides. But God forbid if something were to happen where he weren't available, felt like this would offer an opportunity for somebody that's played a lot of high level football, to get him in here, get him, kind of familiar with some of the things that we're doing. And that's what went into the decision.
And then if you could just kind of elaborate on Matthew, is he ready to go, or do you see Carson Wentz moving into that position this week?
No, Matthew should be ready to go. He was out there taking part in individual today. He's making great progress. And so we're operating with the anticipation and expectation that he is going to be good to go. He'll be pushing through, but we expect him to be able to start and play and do his thing and lead the way this week.
Very good. Thank you, Sean.
Thanks, Maria.
Hey, Sean. So he's throwing?
He is, yes.
Okay. With the
and he's gripping a ball.
Hey, wow, update. Thank you. I didn't have to ask, so I appreciate that. With the Carson Wentz decision, what went into the timing of him specifically? Obviously, he's been kind of out there for a while, and you guys went in one direction with Brett Rippon, but ultimately clearly made a different decision there.
Yeah, I think just experiences. You learn through those experiences, and he's a guy that had played a lot of football. He has been somebody that we had discussed. There was a lot of things that led into it, but the situations and some of the things that we had went through ultimately led us to feel like, all right, let's make that decision. Let's hope that we have a situation and scenario where Matthew is healthy the rest of the way. But if for whatever reason he wasn't available, this was the direction that we wanted to go and, have Carson be able to take that role over.
And then understanding that he'll be the backup, that's not something necessarily he's done, regularly in his career. How did he come in to specifically approach the understanding to be taking that role?
He's been a pro in every sense of the word. Even when he came in for his physical last week, just kind of knew him just through kind of surface level interaction, but was just so impressed with how he's approached this last week, even just going through where he got a bunch of reps today in practice and the way that he handled it, the huddle command, the execution. I think he was just excited to be able to get into a building and be around, a guy like Matthew, who they both have tremendous respect for one another. Thought Zach Robinson did a really good job of kind of spending a lot of time over the bye of getting him familiar and acquainted with a lot of the, the general information. And he's been exposed to a lot of football, but he was a pro in every sense. And we're glad to have him in the building.
And then slight pivot. Will you get Rob and Ernest back this week?
Yes. That's the expectation.
Thank you.
And I'll have a full kind of injury update for you guys on Wednesday, but those guys, the answer is yes.
Sarah?
Hey, Sean. Because you signed Carson during the bye, was he able to be in the building at all? And what did last week look like for him?
Yeah, so he came in and he got his physical done, and we met with him for a little bit of time, and then he was able to go back and be with his family, and we were able to do a lot of stuff over Zoom with him. Zach Robinson did a great job of kind of getting him familiarized with some of the verbiage, the vernacular, all the little things, that you never take for granted, and he did a great job of translating a lot of that today when we practiced.
The time frame was different than last year with Baker, but what did you learn from the experience getting Baker ready against the Raiders that you used to get Carson ready this week?
I think it's more about just kind of just teaching them the foundations. It was a little bit different with Baker because you're accelerating and teaching a game plan, and you really don't have any sort of practice reps. The amount of practice reps that we had today were more than you typically have in a full speed setting during the week of a Thursday prep. But I think what you realize is at the end of the day, coaches are teachers. And I thought Zach Robinson did a phenomenal job of teaching. Obviously, Carson did a great job of digesting the information and then it translating to what he was able to do on the grass today. And it will continue to kind of just stack blocks. So really about teaching, kind of having a very specific and sequential teaching progression relative to the information he needs to know instead of, throwing the whole gauntlet at somebody.
And then last week you mentioned that you guys were hopeful you'd get Kyron back the first week he's eligible. What have you missed about having him on the field?
I mean, just the overall, I think just everything that he brings, competitiveness, the production, feel as a runner, explosiveness, production in both the pass and the run, good feel and understanding for what we're trying to get done in protection. And he just was really playing at a really high level. And so been pleased with the job that Royce and Daryl have done kind of filling in his absence. But, you look at where he was playing amongst these other really good players in the league, and he had a stretch where he's playing some really good football. And so his production and just the overall presence and his competitiveness, I think, is what you've missed. And he's a really good player, and we're looking forward to getting him back.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Gary?
Hey, Sean. There were some reports that Carson had been working out with John Gruden. I'm just curious if you can confirm that, and if so, what feedback, if any, you might have gotten from John regarding Carson.
Hey, you know what? I'm not sure about that. You'll have to ask Carson, and we didn't get a chance to kind of cover that, but I know he stayed active, takes great care of himself, Gary, and he did a nice job today, so I haven't had a chance to ask him about that, actually.
Do you see him as someone that you keep on the roster beyond this season? I mean, do you see this as a longer play?
I think that's to be determined. I think we were just excited about being able to get him in the building. We had a need, and like I had mentioned, we're excited about getting Matthew back, Gary, but I think to have somebody that's played as, well as he's played, has had as many experiences as he's had, to be out there and available is kind of rare. And so we were excited about the opportunity to be able to get him into the building, and that's kind of where we're at right now as it relates to that.
Aside from that kind of football business, how were you able to spend, the bye week? And, you talked about coming back, you and your players, reset and refreshed, whatnot. I mean, how did you spend it, and how do you feel kind of going into the Seattle week?
Feel good. It was great. Man, you really appreciate, I thought it came at a great time, being able to have the baby a couple weeks ago and spend some time, learning how to change diapers and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I went all in, Gary, so I wasn't just sitting on the sidelines watching. So I was trying to help out and not get in my wife's way. But no, our players, they had a great look in their eye today. I think it was really good for everybody, and it came at the right time. And now we're excited to be able to attack the second half of the season. A lot of good opportunities for us to play good, clean ball. And but I did really get a chance to enjoy, doing a little bit of work here and there, but then, spending some good quality time with my family. My parents were in town, which was great. And so it was a really good week, and, a lot of Mr. Dad, which was kind of cool. I can get used to it.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Stu?
Hey, Sean, kind of along those same lines as far as just the outlook after the bye week. What was your message to the team when you guys all reconvened at the facility today?
It's just I think it's a lot of the same. Attack the opportunity with an enthusiasm and excitement about what's ahead. Not looking backwards, but how can we learn from the first 9 weeks, both positive and things that we can improve upon, and let's focus on those things and let's go attack it, and let's love this challenge that the NFL brings every single week, and love the opportunity to welcome some guys back, and love coaching and love playing as well as we possibly can. And let's see what the heck happens.
And along the lines of getting guys back, I understand if maybe you can't answer this fully until Wednesday, but Bobby Brown was designated for return to practice today. Do you see him potentially being available this week, or is that dependent on how practice goes?
I do. Yeah, no, he'll be, he looked good. It was good to get him back. And, he was another guy that we've missed.
Thank you.
Wrap it up with you, Jordan.
Thanks, Ernest. Just a quick, when you did your sort of your after action on the first part of the season yourself, and then also with coaches, was there anything in terms of how narrow some of the margins have been, patterns that maybe kept popping up in terms of, you guys were really in a lot of these games, it seemed like, other than a couple of margins here or there?
Yeah, what's interesting? The answer is yes, and that's kind of an ongoing thing where you're kind of keeping up with it week to week. And the thing that's been unique about our 9-game narrative, and I think particularly when you look at it really through those first 7 games, because the Dallas game was kind of its own deal. And then even the Green Bay without, with just some of the different things that we were working through. I thought defensively we played well enough. Offensively, we didn't have enough production, to give ourselves a real chance in that game. But the answer is yes, you realize it's in those margins, but it wasn't one all-encompassing thing. I think it's more about season and maximizing those moments, Jordan, when you look at it in previous situations, it's like, all right, hey, where is that moment that you can really seize and take a chokehold of this game, and then how we can positively play off of one another in all three phases. And I think that'll be, a key thing is seizing those moments. And I think really going for it, and then being able to, play good quality ball where it's like, hey, this is the NFL. There's going to be some matchups that don't always go down the way that we want. But if we're doing the ball the right way, we're communicating, we're staying connected, we're making people earn everything that they get, we're making sure that we're aware of the things that we can expect and anticipate defensively, then I'm all right with that. And I think our guys can draw a lot of confidence from, hey, this is what it's looked like when it's been right. Let's keep taking steps forward. Let's not let the emotion of some of the previous weeks affect our ability to optimistically and realistically move forward in a manner that's reflective of keep improving and keep understanding what this group can be capable of. And don't let anybody else other than ourselves write that story.
Yeah. And on that note, Sean, if you don't mind, with that sort of connecting to, yourself coaching up a young roster and I think seems like also taking a lot of that internal approach with yourself as well. What does that mean for you in terms of, you do have some veteran players who do understand how to maximize those margins, but then what does that mean for getting everyone up to that point at the same time?
Continuing to point it out and then really just being able to make the plays, or if we didn't, then how can we learn and how can we put our guys in those right positions? I don't think there's anything more powerful than, the compounding and, the ability for positive momentum to compound. And then really, and I think it is a fine line too, Jordan, because what you don't like, because what ends up happening when you're in these types of things is, I tell myself that as a coach, it's like, well, then you end up splitting hairs on little things because the margins are smaller and you're saying, let's go play free. But if you do that, it's a fine line between making guys feel like, all right, hey, I have no freedom to fail. That's not what we want at all. And so, there's a lot of things that, you continue to just really try to ask yourself. You ask the players, you ask the coaches, but I think what it boils down to is let's see how consistently we can play good football with an urgency, but an ability to be able to enjoy going and competing and loving the challenges that are ahead. And if we do that, snap in and snap out to the best of our ability, I'd like to see, I think that can be a pretty good movie for us. And I think we've seen instances where that's looked good. And now we got to be able to go do it. And are the things that we're doing throughout the course of the week in alignment to set that up to best illustrate itself in those windows of time that were allotted. And that's kind of where our focus is. And it's not exclusive to one thing. It'd almost be a little bit easier if you could identify one central thing, but it's not. And I think the big thing is how can we all play, 11 as one, whatever phase is out there. How are we providing that clarity? And then, how consistently can we go get that thing done and then be able to make some plays when they're there to be able to be made as well. I mean, you look at it, football is it's a beautiful game that when it's on rhythm and on time, it can be awesome. And then there's some of the coolest things that you sit there and you watch when you're sitting around. And a lot of this stuff is the beauty of what these players can kind of create when things go a little off script, if you will.